They say seven heads together is stronger than one. Making plays, open J's, and the open run. If we talking about breaks and shooters filling lanes, all my dogs is down for war. You can tell how they train. Coaches coach and players play, but they learn from each other. If the roles are reversed, if they secure, we assist one another. Making strides for a ship in the regular season. Lacing up these Knights of band of brothers, turning into some demons. Through the season, spring to fall, we gon' see who is working. When the winner hit the surface, gon' see who deserve it. Left competition in the dust, now the opposite deserted. Only lions in my circle, we hungry for purpose. Not just giving all these stripes, you can see that I earned them. Can't fuck the system, take the knowledge, you study and learn it. Being strongest as the weakest, 1 through 12 is equal. Tried to trap me so hard now, you know I had to thread the needle. You know I had to thread the needle, try erase and draw it up, just trying to see my youngins in. Yeah, you know I had to thread the needle, try erase and draw it up, just trying to see my youngins in.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Coaches Show. And for the coaches, by the coaches, we have our special guest in the building, representing Charles Carroll Middle School. Give a shout out to Coach Dunbar. What's going on, Coach?
Hey, what's up, fellas? How everybody doing?
All is well, man. All is well. The race board panel has already prepared their questions. We had our pregame speeches, and we're ready to jump ball. You ready?
All right, let's get it.
All right. So first question, or what we normally do, we let the people know who you are. Can you tell the people a little bit more about Coach Dunbar, your stops, where you've been coached, what made you start coaching, and so on and so on?
What's up, everyone? I'm Coach Dunbar. I'm well known over at Charles Carroll Middle School. My grind started coaching the Boys and Girls Club level. I coach a lot of the kids in the Carroll and Largo area that we see right now is NBA players. So I started out from the bottom of the grind started off with when they was about 7, 8 years old. I started coaching, and I just worked my way up through the ropes, and the middle school and also the high school level.
So when you say middle school and high school, what middle schools have you coached at, and where are you coaching at currently?
I started at middle school level over at Windward and built a powerhouse over there at Windward Middle School. And then I was offered a high school job to go over to Duval High School. My first year over at Duval High School, we went to the States and also the championship with Duval. I was on staff with Ulysses Lee. I was on staff with him, and we built a nice powerhouse over there at Duval High School.
Yeah, so when you talk about it, man, I was gonna get into it earlier. We got several questions that we're gonna get to, but it would be not doing it any pleasure if I don't talk about it. When you talk about powerhouse, and what people don't understand is that you had the opportunity when you was at Windward Middle School, you had the opportunity to make some championship games as well, and to coach some players that went on and did some great things over at Windward. And I'm just speaking of Windward because I know firsthand, because that's where one of my feeder schools. Can you talk about some of those kids that came through Windward?
Windward, I had Joe Hampton, I had Sherwin, I had Jawan, I had a lot of kids that is not being said that I had over there at Windward.
Yeah, it will work. And one guy you missed out, he gonna be mad at you, is Daniel Oladapo, because that's why I was going at it first. But
no, I was gonna let y'all do that introduction. But Daniel, when I first got Daniel didn't know a lick of basketball. Daniel was a straight football player that we turned into a straight powerhouse. Came over there. Once I was done with him over Windward, I passed him on over there to you.
Right, absolutely. And we appreciate it. So the next question is coming from John Kamara from Parkdale High School.
Okay.
What's going on, Coach?
Hey, how you doing, Coach?
I'm good. Just wanted to make sure, just say proud of you. When you talk about middle school basketball, you're talking about coaching in this area in Prince George's County that has, luxury of basketball talent. And, we tend to talk about high school guys and things like that. But when we talk about middle school basketball, your name comes up first. And it's not because, we know each other or anything like that. It's just because when we talk about middle school basketball, your name comes up. And, that's definitely a salute to you. And we talk about coaching basketball. So sometimes that gets overlooked. And, people don't appreciate that avenue of basketball. But, that's basically the grassroots. That's where it starts at. And people tend to forget that at times.
Yeah, that's a lot of people forget because you got to start these kids off right to get them prepared for high school. And when they come through Boys and Girls Club, they don't get that good coaching like they need to because back then everybody was like one more wins than less losses. Coming up at that Boys and Girls Club level. And once you get to that middle school level and that AAU level, that's basically your getting the kids prepared for high school. And a lot of coaches don't look back on that because the reason why I go back and forth between middle school and high school because a lot of kids don't get that coaching ability that actually for you to do one-on-one coaching with them so they can be successful on the high school level. So that's another reason why I go in between the middle school, the AAU, and the high school level because it's some things that kids need to be worked on that you got to actually build a brand to brand them to be successful players.
Definitely.
That's
So
what that's
yeah, definitely. So can you just explain that mixture? Like you just talked about middle school, high school, and AAU. How do you, you're in all those fields, how do you, manage, being around all three and making sure a kid, is successful, you being in all those avenues?
by me being around those avenues, it's making me a better coach because middle school level, I get the aptness of everything, far as the ability to teach them. Coach is about teaching, and you have to teach them and you have to coach them up. The AAU level is the same way. Basically, you blend it in high school, middle school, and college all together. So when you're on those circuit, that you got to make sure your voice is ready and prepared to bump against these teams out here because you have a large audience of these coaches is being there, being in the building, watching what you could do.
Definitely. So definitely appreciate that response. I don't want to go too far on some of these answers because we got a lot of questions we want to ask you today. So I'm gonna just go ahead and pass it to Coach Will Maynard from Southern High School.
All right.
Coach, great having you on the show, man.
What's up, Coach Will?
I know I just, like Coach John said, man, known all across the state. I mean, it's coaches out my way asking me, do I know you? So that means a lot. And we don't have middle school, basketball out here, but I heard somebody was talking about basketball and they were just talking about, you guys are pulling and Coach Dunbar do this and that. And I'm like, man, that's what's up, man. That's definitely what's up. But my question to you is, what do you think about the fact that because there's a lot of public school coaches that feel middle school coaches tend to sway their better players to private school?
I'm glad you brought that up. I went on to PG County Hoops and we was talking about that. It all come down to that all the coaches needs to have a concept of working with each other instead of against each other. I'm saying that I open up my doors to public and also private schools. I have a relationship with the coaches in the area. And I try to put a kid in a good environment if that kid is available and ready to be in that environment far as the private school. If the kid is a public school kid I'm gonna feed him into a public school so he could better have a better look and a better role playing in a public school. So vice versa, that a lot of coaches have to work together. They have to. If the coaches work together from the middle school and high school, that what I'm trying to do once we get back into the mode of the buildings being open and stuff, I want to host a coaches clinic with PG County middle school coaches and also high school and also private school coaches. So all the coaches can get a feel of the brotherhood about the coaches of what we're doing out here, that it'd be beneficial that, you won't have people be asking these different questions and feel like they siding players to other schools and basically cutting people off. And I think that's what we need to work on as coaches to try to get that done.
Yeah, I definitely understand everything you're saying. I mean, I don't have to deal with it out here because we don't have middle school ball, and I know it's not as hectic and crazy out where Tobias coach at like it is out PG County. But I know just knowing the amount of coaches I hear that all the time. That and not about you because I talk to you and I know if it's a good. You always say exactly what you just said in that answer. This kid's not a private school kid. This kid's not a private school kid. You know what I mean? So you keep it real. And when you say he's not a private school kid, you're not talking about talent-wise. You're just talking about just the way he for him. So, definitely send you a lot of respect for that because, a lot of people just get, so caught up in the glitz and glamour of private schools and they forget that, we have good basketball and great coaches in public school as well.
Right.
So I'm gonna pass the next question. Along to Tobias Jennifer of Huntown High School.
All right.
What's going on, Coach?
Hey, how you going, Coach Tobias?
Not too bad, man. We don't know each other, in too much depth or personally, but I think we ran into each other a couple of times. I've seen you on staff at at Fairmont and things of that nature. So I definitely appreciate all that you do for the game of basketball on the middle school and high school level, man, in your area for sure. And I'd even venture to say, because I've noticed on social media how big of a presence you have in the middle school ranks. And like Will was saying, in my county, I think we got six middle schools. And even though we do have middle school basketball, I think we may have 8 schools. Even though we have middle school basketball, it's not as competitive as I've noticed in PG County or even in Montgomery or Baltimore City. And, I always have been a little jealous of that because, man, those atmospheres that I've seen at your games, at Pullen's games, they sometimes those are better than some high school games I've been to, which is crazy. So, but that just goes to show that the hard work and things that you all and coaches like yourself have put in to the middle schools and what and you get back what you put in. So that's a testament to you guys. So my question to you, and I got a couple of them because I'm also going to ask the question for Coach Small, who cannot be on here today. But my first question is, coaching at the middle school level and the high school level, how do you manage doing both? Because I've coached before at Parks and Recs and things of that nature, and the seasons kind of overlap. So how do you manage doing both? How does the schedule allow you to do both? And then my next question, I guess, would be, which level do you feel like you serve a better impact at, the high school or the middle school?
The first question you asked, I'm blessed to be on Fairmont staff. I kind of balance my schedule around their practice schedule, so I could be there. I'm glad that Coach Henry is my guy, man. He's like, hey, what days y'all going? And we try to network and try to balance the schedule so I can be there with my group over at Fairmont. So basically get them prepared for the season and stuff. So I go back and forth between Charles Carroll and also Fairmont. So my schedule kind of balanced, and Coach Henry worked with my schedule to balance it out. So I'm able to be there to do my coach's role over at Fairmont.
Absolutely, man. And and I'm glad you said that, man, because I've always thought to myself, how I coach high school basketball, and we do have a feeder school. We have we kind of have two of them, more one than the other, but we do have a couple feeder schools, and I try to get to their games, but my games overlap. Usually, their games or my practices overlap their games or whatever the case may be. So it's difficult. So I can only imagine, how difficult that can be for you to kind of make your schedule and adjust your schedule. But, it seems like you're doing a good job at it. So which level do you feel like you have a better impact at? Do you feel like you have a better impact at the middle school or the high school level?
I best basically say I have an impact on both levels. Do to say that I love the middle school level. I also love the high school level as well. But I don't see myself moving out of middle school no time soon, because I have a lot of kids that's coming up through the middle school level, and I want to get them prepared for high school. And the high school level is the same way, because I want to get kids prepared and go to college. So I'm gonna keep going back and forth through the middle school and the high school level, until something big comes up. I'm not gonna rush myself. I'm still learning. I'm still trying to get things accomplished on this middle school level. Um, it's just I'm humble, and I'm just gonna keep working on both.
Oh man, for sure, man, and I appreciate you. I appreciate you saying that, man, because like I said, once again, it's a tough gig, man. Having to coach middle school and a different type of player, and then having to go to high school and coaching a different type of player and a different style of player. So I appreciate that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to read the question that Coach Small from Washington Adventist University was going to ask, but he's not here to do so. So I'll take over that role for him. So coming from Coach Small, Coach Desmond Small, middle school basketball is such a short season. What separates a good middle school coach from an average middle school coach? And then what do you do differently than most middle school coaches?
I feel like the X and O's with my kids is that we go in the classroom. I'm making them recognize the position that they're playing in. We do one-on-ones. Right now, we have 3 coaches on my staff, including me. What we do, we split them up in groups. And the coach is responsible for that player. I do that because that gives me a way of, like, if I got a bench of 15 players, that we split them up in groups. And the reason why we do that we can actually teach them better than teach them in large groups. And then once we come together, we walk through a lot of stuff. We run through a lot of stuff. We do a lot of shot talk. We do a lot of film. So my middle school coaching ability is on a high school level. That's why I'm being successful of what I'm doing on the middle school level, because I go to a lot of coaches conference with high school and college coaches, and my wisdom and my ability of learning is basically on that higher level, not on the middle school level. So my level of coaching is basically on a high school level and slash AAU level. That the cost of everything, my ability is that the kids are being ready. So if my kids go to a public school, they're gonna get thrown in the fire, and they're gonna be ready. So I feed into Parkdale, and also I feed up to Blade. My kids that comes over there to the 2 feeder schools, they be ready to go. So that's what, on the middle school level, I get kids prepared.
I love that, man. I was going to ask, and you hit on it, but I was going to ask, since you coach at the high school level, do you incorporate a lot of those tactics and skill sessions and things of that nature, which is great, man. And it sounds like you do, which that does get those kids ready, because I'll tell you firsthand, you know, the kids that I usually get from middle school, 9 times out of 10, they're not ready. And that's not a slight, you know, to those coaches and those programs, anything in my area. But those coaches usually aren't necessarily basketball coaches, you know, like yourself, who coach basketball year round. And really that's all you coach is AAU, high school and middle school basketball. The coaches that coach the middle schools in my area are usually coaches who coach another sport and kind of have been able to take over the middle school team as a kind of like a necessity. Not that they don't do a good job, and I'm not saying that at all, but they're not able to put in the long hours and the legwork like you do and like other middle school coaches in your area do. So for that, you know, I'm a little envious, but, you know, that's just something that I think we need to work on, and that may be something I need to work on with those coaches and kind of educating them on exactly what I need them to do when the kids come to be ready. And we've had some conversations like that, but there's always room for improvement. And it seems like you're doing that with the feeder schools that you have, because I know the success that Parkdale and Bladensburg has had over the last couple of years, man. So for that, I salute you, man. So I'm gonna pass it on. I'm gonna throw the chest pass, because yesterday we was throwing bounce passes. So I'm gonna throw the chest pass here. From Bladensburg High School.
Good pass. Make sure both your thumbs was down, so we good to go on that pass, man. Good job. So for me, I my next question is, I'm getting into it. I understood how critical it was for our program to, and you spoke on it earlier, to build a relationship with the middle school basketball feeder programs in your zones. I understood that. Only thing that I think that's missing from that avenue, and I think it's kind of hard to do after you look at the research and everything, because like you said, being at Charles Carroll or being at Windward, you're feeding into possibly 2 or maybe 3 high school teams. But I just wish that it was a time where we could kind of like have the kids know some of the similar things that high school teams do, as far as like, you know, different tendencies or different pressures or stuff like that, so the kids can have a leg up. But then when I started going to more practices, like you said, with your doors being open, you start to understand that a lot of the stuff that you want from a high school coach, you having that high school role, understanding and seeing how to teach the other kids the stuff that's being learned in high school. I think that has been a great thing for us as on our programs. And I know John over at Parkdale the same way, getting those kids in and not having to teach them from ground level, and they have some understanding on what high school, you know, basketball is all about and the stuff that we teach. I want to ask you this question. How can high school coaches build that? I want to use the word trust first. And then also, how can high school coaches build that relationship with the middle school feeder coaches so they can have a better understanding of the kids? Like, I was just looking at my phone, and I still have notes on kids that played at Windward that just graduated from Blade now about them when they was in the 8th grade. And I show them these notes all the time, and I show them how much they mature over the years. And I still have these notes in my phone about those kids. But speaking to those high school coaches, some of them that may or may not go to these gyms or these feeder school programs, because like I know, I'll miss a practice to come to your practice because I know, or to get to a game, you know, because I think it's very important, because it's very that we have that time, but you got to make that time. What can high school coaches do differently or add on to what they do to build that relationship with middle school coaches?
I'm gonna put it in the hands of the head coach of a high school program that really needs to reach out to the middle school and basically invite the middle school coach to their facility to actually see what type of program they have. Like what I do with y'all and Parkdale, I have my doors open and invite y'all over to the practices and the games, as well that I have the kids comes over to y'all games. And so I think that it comes from the head coach of a high school program really needs to talk to who they found out who the head coach of the middle school team is, and try to network and try to build a relationship and a trust. So if my kid is coming over to your high school, I can trust and believe that my kids is in good hands. And that's what I do with you and John, that I make sure that my kids in good hands.
So that's one of the things too. With the door being open, I don't think a lot of coaches have that time. You know, because basketball for us is nonstop, and that's off the break. You know, they have a shirt that says it, but it's real. It's reality. It's not. It's forever going. And but I think coaches too should have that opportunity. If the head coach can't come, send a middle school coach. You know, because I know personally kids that I've talked to that now I see them when they're in the 10th, 11th grade. I might even forgot the conversation that I had with them. And they see, man, I remember when you came to my school in 7th grade and you told me X, Y, and Z, man, I really appreciate it. You know what I mean? So those relationships build that confidence too for that kid as well, because a lot of them look at us as high school coaches, but a lot of them share that need to say, like, this is where they want to be. To kids come to me, man, I can't wait till I get to high school, man. They want to be a part of the high school program. So definitely appreciate you having that door open like that. And it's going to be continued. You know, me and John fighting for kids, but we know it's a thin line over there between Riverdale and Bladensburg, and that line gets real thin sometimes. But definitely appreciate you. So I'm going to see you past the chest pass, thumbs down over to John Kamar from Parkdale High School.
Pass received. Got it. About to finish this layup. And I'm going to piggyback off of basically what O said. So now we're talking about, feeder schools and, kids getting ready for high school. So it's also, we're in an area where basketball never stops. So what do you think is the biggest misconception about middle school basketball? Because we have middle school basketball. So what do people normally say about the middle school basketball league that can be negative? Because at the same time, with everything positive the middle school league brings, it's still misconceptions out here. Like, okay, I might not go to a middle school game. The best kids might be playing in the PYBL or the CYO and things like that. So what do you hear? And you being a high school coach too, being on a Duval staff, Fairmont staff, even the Master football staff, what is the biggest misconception that people might say negative about middle school basketball in PG County?
You have a lot of people talk negative. They feel that AAU is more susceptible of their kid playing AAU ball than playing middle school ball. I have a little differences because some of my players play with some elite, well-known circuit teams, and they feel like circuit basketball is more important than middle school basketball. When I had to explain to them and break down to them to make them understand that school ball is important than AAU. AAU gonna be there, but you're looking at the middle school basketball that schools is actually in there to look at your child. And so once I broke it down to the parents, and what I do is that I have a meeting with my parents early and let them know your child making my basketball team, they need to be in practice. They're not skipping my practice and going to no AAU practice. Right now, if they want to stay a part of my organization, whatever, they going to have to understand my rules. And once I did that, the parents start understanding that middle school basketball is important.
Definitely. It's always that, it's always that AAU versus high school or public school basketball as well. I did middle school for 1 year, and I was coaching girls, but on the boys side, I was hearing the stories about kids missing playoff games, so they decided to go to Orlando with their respective AAU team and things like that. And it was a priority. It was a priority balance and challenge with the kid, and I was just shocked that it was going on at the middle school level. Sometimes even on the high school level, you get that where a kid might not want to go to a practice towards the end of the season because they got AAU tryouts, and different or work out with their high school team, and they rather go to AAU practice instead of working out with their high school team. So that battle is there from middle school to high school, and it's just something that we have to work with and change as coaches.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like now that since we got this COVID-19 going on right now, I try to keep in contact with all of my players. Like a few weeks ago, I sat down with you, try to talk to you about different players that's coming to you, and then just like, I talked to a couple weeks ago and let him know what players I got coming to him. So basically, I have like you pretty much know what y'all got coming in, and that's why I like to do, and then my job that is extremely well as far as being a middle school coach, because basically my kids that I sent to y'all is actually ready. Y'all can throw them in a fire and see what competition y'all gonna have. And so that's why I do my job well, and I love my job what I do on the middle school level, the high school, and the AAU level. That I make sure that that ability that I'm doing my job right, and that's why the parents and everyone loves me. Because I keep it 100 with them about their child and about their ability about them playing basketball.
Definitely, definitely. So I'm going ahead and pass it to Tobias Jennifer. Throw the lob, see if he catches alley-oop.
That might be a little rough. After tearing my Achilles, I stay close to the ground now. But I appreciate that, man. A lot of good insight, Coach. So I'm just gonna keep the ball moving, no pun intended, to my next question. I know you spoke about it. I've also seen on social media, obviously some of the big name athletes that you've been able to coach in middle school and in high school. Obviously, example, Joe Hampton and Daniel Oladapo. So for me and the other people that are going to be watching this, can you explain the dynamic of coaching some of those higher echelon or those most skilled players, and how do you coach those type of athletes, and how has coaching those type of athletes helped you develop as a coach?
Per se, that those kids, when I first got them, man, they didn't know the right from the left hand, how to pivot and everything. So I kind of scratched my head. I got frustrated a little bit, right? So, and I said, I'm gonna change my way, my ability for these kids that knows basketball, who is already ready, and for the kids who really don't know basketball, that I blend them together. I put it in a blending type of thing. Like it's say a brother building exercise, and try to build the less fortunate kid who really didn't know basketball, and the most fortunate kid who knows basketball. And I did a team exercises, team building, and that's how I started to get my teams clicking and playing team basketball by this team building. If you do these team building exercises, that it will help you as a coach build, I say, a brand, a winning, a traditional, successful basketball team. It comes from team building. If you team build, that you will feel less stress and you feel your ability of coaching is more fun. And so right now, my coaching ability, I feel it is fun. I don't feel stressed. I don't feel like I have like sleepless nights or anything, because what I did and everything I learned from going to the different coaches clinic on the high school level, the middle school level, traveling with AAU, talking to some of the well-known uh, big dogs in the area, like how you say the OGs, talking, sit down, have a talk with them. I build a good brotherhood from this PG County area, also DC. I still talk to my DC coaches, and I have coaches out of state and everything. And we just sit down and just talk among coaches about different strategies and stuff like that. And be like, man, bro, it's like what you doing on this middle school level is phenomenal. And just like I couldn't tell everybody I was gonna be featured in Basketball County in the Water documentary, I couldn't say nothing I knew that they filmed it, but I couldn't say nothing to my family and friends about it until it actually aired. And it's everybody who's watching this, Charles Carroll was featured in Basketball County in the Water. Shout out to the phenomenal director. Um, and it happened so fast, and I was in the moment. You probably see me jumping around, and that's what we do for us coaches. We gotta let our kids that we into it, just like how they enter on the court. Either way, the coaches gonna do their job on the side, and the players gonna do their thing on the court, and that's why we have such ability of good brotherhood, of rocking and rolling when basketball season come around over Charles Carroll, because basically we mend everything together. If a player feels like they did something wrong, that's why we have our coaches, and they'll coach them up, and I split my kids up in groups and stuff. So we basically won't be frustrated as a coaching staff coaching the game, and we having fun.
Oh man, that's amazing. And over the last couple of interviews, and obviously last couple of weeks, we've had some discussions about the basketball documentary, and people had different takes on it. And obviously, I'm not from PG County. I'm in the neighboring county of Calvert, but I truly enjoyed the documentary, and I did get a chance to see you in there, and you making your debut. And I mean, you see all the big name kids and the big name athletes. That's amazing. But at the beginning, when you see a kid like a Ron Polite at the Oxon Hill, and then when you see you and your staff and your kids, throughout it, it brings it back down to earth, and shows you the reality of what basketball and how pure it really is at that form. Instead of just they could have really just pounded us over the head with just the NBA stuff, but they didn't. They brought it back down to earth, and they showed what it's really like in PG County. So for that, I'm also appreciative, even though I'm not from PG, and I'll continue to say that. But what you and these other coaches on here and that's in the county, man, you guys allude that, man. Very prideful of being from PG, and things of that nature. So that's beautiful, man. Absolutely. So I'm gonna move on, Coach. I got Coach Small question again. Obviously, you are very prideful of coaching at Charles Carroll, of course. And I've also seen on social media a lot of the success that you've had. So what are some of your proudest moments from coaching middle school at Charles Carroll, or the best part about being a middle school coach?
Oh man, it started out when I won a couple championships over at Windward. I have a banner over at Windward. Also, I have a banner over at Charles Carroll. Man, that year, 2017 year, that I had a powerhouse team over there. I had Willie Rivera, had Marvin. Man, I had Devon Trey, Jeremiah, Isai, Brian. Those guys was the guys that I had that we won that middle school championship. And the history of a Charles Carroll, they haven't won a middle school championship in 20 years.
Jeez.
So I made history over there. That was my first year back. Coming back to the middle school, I took on a job 2018, 2017. I was coming back from high school over from Duval. And I work in the building at Charles Carroll, and AD and the principal came to me. He said, well, we heard that you're looking for a coaching job. I said, I'm just shopping around, see my options. He's like, no, you don't need a shop. We want to offer you the head coaching job here at Charles Carroll. So once I got offered the job, I started doing my leg work, going in the classroom, checking on players. Once tryout time came around, I had 106 players came to try out. And I was like, whoa. So I had to split the gym up and try to see everybody. I had notepads and everything to try to look at, the kids and stuff like that. Like that first day, I had to cut 75 players because basically I was trying to get in the mix of you trying to get things right. And then like the next day I cut 30 and then I narrowed it down to the team. And it was a battle far as, getting them ready and stuff like that. And like I, said about the team building exercise, that basically got the team prepared. And then from there, once we started the season off, it was running. We had a rivalry game against Thomas Pullen. Thomas Pullen had they little nice little mob over there, and that's the game. That's the game of the year. Everybody comes out because that game between Charles Kerr and Pullen sells out.
Oh yeah,
It sells out. It sells out, and they had the cameras rolling, the drones flying in the gym, and after the atmosphere, it just be live, And we was coming to a hostile environment, 2017, and we only lost to them like 4 points. So middle school only picks the two top teams of each division. So the two top teams was Charles Kerr and Pullen. So Pullen advanced to the playoffs. Charles Kerr advanced to the playoffs. Pullen was the number 1 seed. Charles Kerr was the number 2 seed. So we was in the playoffs, and Pullen had to play Benjamin Tasker. Benjamin Tasker had jumped on him and got him. And then Benjamin Tasker had to come to Charles Kerr and play us for the semifinals. And we jumped on Benjamin Tasker. So either way how it turned out, we knew by us losing that one game, we only lost one game. That one game was going to help us get to that championship. And I told my kids, I said, don't matter about that loss right now. It's 0-0. I said, when we come to the playoffs, we got to do what we need to do. And I told them, I seen it in their eyes. And by us beating in the semifinal, going to that championship, I told them to cry. Let it out. Because when it comes for us to go Saturday, playing this championship game, we already know it's going to be on. So we advanced to the championship, and we beat Walker Mill. Walker Mill had a good team. They had a nice-sized team, but just outplayed them. And then that's how we got awarded that middle school championship in 2017. And I still been building, but it's a lot of things came in place the last 2 years for me not to get there. We made it to the playoffs, but, I told my kids that don't trip over it. I know they want to play in the championship, but, we try to proceed and try to overcome that hump. But, some way, somehow, something got interfered for us for proceeding to achieve our goal. So, that was my memorable thing as far as why I do what I do to make sure and show them the right way to be champions.
Absolutely, man. And I've yet to win any form of championship at Huntingtown. At some point, we'll get there and we'll build it. Like you say, you got to build. You got to walk before you can. You got to crawl before you can walk. And you were able to get over that hump and get that championship, which was great. And like you say, you weren't able to get it the last couple of years, but those kids coming up, that'll make them even hungrier to get the championship. You got to still have that hunger to get that championship. And you like you say, I heard you reel off a few names, from that team. So just give me a couple names of some top players that you've been able to coach throughout your time in middle school. Just give me like 5. Give me your top 5.
I got Joe Hampton, Sherwin Devonish, Daniel Oladapo. I had Kayvon Wade, Willie Rivera, Isai, and Brian Jackson. I had to throw Brian Jackson in there because they gonna hear Isai and Brian Jackson names next year over at Parkdale. This is gonna be their senior year, and they got something to prove over there. So
Oh, yeah.
I already know.
Crazy. And I'm not even in. Once again, I'm not in PG County, and we got other PG County coaches on here, obviously with John and Coach O. But a lot of those names, they carry some weight. The things that they've been able to accomplish at their respective schools in PG County, and even in Calvert County. I know some of those names, and some of our players know those names because of the things they've been able to accomplish. So that's hats off to you, your staff. These guys that's on here that were able to get them after you had them. So that's a great thing, man. So I appreciate that, man. I appreciate hearing about that championship journey. I have no doubts you'll get back. Just keep those kids hungry. With this pandemic, it's been tough, but I'm sure you working. You gonna get there again. We'll make it happen. So I'm gonna go ahead and pass it right back to Coach O. I'm gonna let him take the helm from here.
Yeah, man. I want to go on something. John, I want to ask you a question too, John. I hope you didn't go too far. Now, Dunbar just said he had 100. First of all, let me rewind back. John, how many players you have at trials?
Did you say 100? Who, me
How
or
many
him?
players did you have? Yeah.
At trials this year, I probably had 30,
All right.
35.
At my varsity trials, I had 19.
Can I take?
So Dunbar just said he had 100 kids in middle school. We ain't doing a good job, John. We gotta make sure these kids understand that they got to come to trials too. Because I think a lot of times what happens, this is why it's so crucial for a high school coach to get to the middle school, because a lot of those kids are afraid to come to trials because they hear all the rump, like, I ain't run cross country, I'm not gonna be in shape, it ain't gonna be no basketball there, we gonna run for 2 hours straight. And a lot of times those kids get caught up in hearing that and not even showing them the trials. So for you to have 100 and something kids there, that's big, because like I said, I mean, we don't have a lot of kids that come off of basketball. You know what I mean? So that's big. When you say that's like 100.
but some might get discouraged, and some of them might catch a reality check. You might have a soccer player. He probably thought he was a basketball player in the 7th grade. He had to figure it out. So he didn't come to basketball trials. He was at soccer practice at Parkdale. He was at soccer practice at Blade. In the 6th, 7th grade, they all think they're gonna be the next Steph Curry until they gotta figure it out.
But the tryouts have 6th, 7th, 8th graders in there. So that's why I be so many up in there. And Charles Kerr's numbers is up, as far as middle school, because we got high school numbers.
How many students at Charles Kerr?
We have 1485.
And I just found out that Win Work got close to 2,000.
Wow.
And that's crazy.
What?
Yeah. How many kids at your school, Tobias?
At Hunting Town, there may be 1,400. Maybe. You talking about a high school?
Yeah.
All we got is 1,000. We got less than 1,000 at our school.
Wow.
We got two. We got two middle schools in our zones. Talking about Paul's, Blade, and Parkdale. So here's the kicker too. We got 6 elementary schools. 6 elementary schools in our zone together, combined. 6 of them. And it's 2,000 kids at Windwork and it's 1,400 at Charles Carroll. And the majority of those kids go to either Parkdale or Bladesburg. So just imagine, you know what I mean? But for us to only say we only got 19 and 30 kids trying out for a basketball team, which is insane.
But you got to look at that. Grades plays a big part too.
But I tell people this a lot. We don't have grade issues when it comes to basketball kids. I'm not even talking about the kids that's on the team. It hasn't been that way in a while where you said, well, when such and such get their grades in January, he gonna become. We don't have that problem. So a lot of our kids is not that the kids that can play, they're not. It's not because they didn't try because of grades. You know what I mean? So I don't know if John has that problem, but I'm never waiting for a kid for January when the report card come out. You know what I mean?
Not at all.
I'm not waiting for that problem at all.
That's why I try to stay on top of them to make sure that we don't have that grade issue.
Yeah. So my next question with the pandemic, man, with everything that's going on with COVID-19, and then we know firsthand over there at the Huddle Show with Neil and Mike, you were working side by side with them to get the All-Star game off his feet this year for middle school basketball. How has that affected middle school basketball as a whole and for your program moving forward?
Oh man, soon that COVID-19 came, we had big plans for our first annual middle school, high school basketball game that we was gonna have at Dr. Henry Wise. It was gonna be back in March. Uh, we went to like different sponsors and outlet peoples to try to help us to kick this event off. Um, we postponed. Right now, we're just waiting to see how the school thing is gonna play out. Are they gonna open the buildings back up? And then try to see if we could try to reschedule everything and try to have the games because we ordered the uniforms and everything was here, ready for this game. So we just waiting to see what's gonna happen, so we can probably try to get everything done.
Yeah, that was going to be huge, man. And it's something that I think personally for middle school basketball is something that needs to be done, as far as like an all-star game or something like that, to showcase our kids. And it should be on our public school grounds, and it shouldn't be at a private school. It should be at our public schools, because these are our kids, and we want to make sure these kids have the best opportunity right in our public school background. Can I ask you one more question too to go along with that? What type of changes are being made for the middle school game, and what type of changes would you like to see? And I know you spoke about the playoff format, and I know it was a conflict that you guys had this year, I believe, with not getting invited to postseason or something like that. I don't know exactly the ins and out of that, but what recommendations could you see going forward to kind of like even the playing field out, if you could say?
I feel the playing field, so there's having 8 games. We should have 9 games, 9 to 10 games, or schedule wise. But it kind of offset for as if you have 3 undefeated teams in your division and they do a coin toss. I need to see that trying to kind of change up, because this coin toss thing is killing teams and also programs. If you had a winning season and you have 3 teams in your division advance to the playoffs, so they only have 2 teams who are advanced to go to the playoffs, but you still have a third team in there, so you got a 3-way tie. They do a coin toss. So they did a coin toss, and that kind of threw the monkey wrench on us advancing to the playoffs this year about this coin toss. So we hoping that whoever's going to be the foresee over the middle school basketball, because I'm hearing different things. What's going on in the athletic office. Waiting to see who's going to be over middle school basketball and also sports, and also who's going to be over the high school as well. So we waiting to see how that's going to play off. Who's going to be the new director as far as that. So we just waiting to see so we can have a sit down with the director, try to finalize some of these rules and stuff, and try to work together amongst coaches to try to get this done and benefit.
So correct me so we get a clear understanding for the people. So y'all only play 8 games?
8 games.
So with y'all playing 8 games, it was a 3-way tie with 7-1 records for all 3 teams?
It was everybody had 1 loss.
So 7-1, 3 teams, and they did a conflict and then told one of the teams, which happened to be Charles Carroll this year, that y'all can't go to the playoffs because we did a coin flip.
Yep.
Yeah, they definitely got to change that. And then you fix that easy by adding in 1 more game. Instead of having 8, having 9, where it's going to be an obvious thing. Or just have 2 teams battle it out and one makes it to go see the other one team. I mean, that's just the even exchange, man. I know coin flip to me is so 1970-ish. We getting this day and time now, like we don't have enough time to schedule another game. Even like with us, Foz, with John, with us in the playoffs, we get into the playoffs and like a day or two before after the seeds already were in, we're being told that it was a coin toss from John when you went from a 3 seed to a 6 seed in the matter of a coin toss.
Yep, that's exactly what happened.
You know what I mean? So it's crazy, man, that we're stuck during those times doing a coin toss. And at the big picture, and we always say this, and I believe it totally, that children come first. But when you do a coin, that coin came before the kid, you know, because those kids work hard as well. And all you can do is tell them as a coach is that we can't play no more because they did a coin toss and they said, but we got the same record, but we can't go. Two other
But the
teams.
thing is about it, they did a coin toss where nobody was there from our school to
I know all
actually see
about it. I know all about it. That's normally how coin toss go. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? That's the other piece to it. But just to have a coin toss to tell a team that's the same, the kids that work just as hard as the other school, that you cannot go to the playoff. Your season is over with, and here's a coin toss. It's almost.
But the thing about it, the two teams who they let go to the playoffs, they got knocked out in the first round. Ain't nobody from our division proceed and play. You know, they got knocked off. And I feel that one right. You know, I did this coin toss. Y'all should have put the best on the best, you know. And, you know, don't sugarcoat my team. My boys have been ready, you know, but it's kind of sad that those teams advanced and they got knocked out that first night they had the playoffs. And you know what I'm saying? God don't like ugly. You know what I'm saying? And I guess that was God, you know, answering me, you know, about the whole thing. I had to actually sit down and break hearts of my boys and parents about not advancing to the playoffs. And that was very heartbreaking.
And that's what the other piece is, that now we're going to rely as you, the coach, to break the bad news to your kids and your parents. And then after you break the news, you have no answers other than what you've been told. Like, oh, we're not we can't go because they did a coin toss or a three-way tie. And that's very heartbreaking to an athlete. Similar to, I mean, it's probably not on the same level, but I mean, just think about these teams that's in the pandemic. How do you 2020 kid, you can't walk across the stage. You know, it's something being snatched away from them for obvious reasons, but to do something like that to a kid that we can control, this pandemic, we couldn't control that. But
Right.
to control a coin toss and a decision made by the higher ups to say that, you know, you guys can play in the playoffs, or we're going to do it. This is what we're going to get in place other than this coin toss. This is what we're going to do. I mean, I think that's probably the biggest thing. And I'm glad you brought that up because I actually forgot about that because I was on my way to go see a championship game, playoff game with Charles Carroll, you know, and then I get that news to say, y'all got the same record and y'all can't play. That's to me, it just doesn't sit well to me for the kid because we all kids first. It ain't too much about going to the playoffs, but you got to tell your kids that they can't go. You know, that's the hard part. So definitely appreciate that. So I'm going to pass it over to John Kamara from Parkdale High School.
Yeah, I agree with everything you were saying, and you know, with the coin toss and things like that. That's just a crazy situation for the kids. So you spoke earlier about Thomas Pullen being your rival, and I was at that game. You know, Jim going crazy and things like that. So that yourself and Pullen, those coaches over there do an awesome job. So I just want to give you the opportunity, like, to elaborate on any other coaches, because like I said, when we talk about middle school basketball, your name comes up. Your name comes up first. So is it any other coaches that we might be overlooking that you believe is doing an awesome job on the middle school level? And then what advice would you give some young coaches that might, step into the middle school role? So what coaches are doing a great job on the middle school level in your eyes as well? And what advice would you give, some of these young coaches that might be coming up in the middle school ranks?
You got Greenbelt Coach Dunn doing a phenomenal job over there. He did a good job with his team. They beat us by 3 points. We ain't never lost to Greenbelt. This is the first year we lost to Greenbelt this year by 3. The refs kind of made the game out of hand for our safety as a kid because we was in the packed gym over Charles Carroll, and a lot of calls that the ref didn't make, should have made, that we felt that the referees didn't see the safety of the kid when we played against Greenbelt. Also, we got a lot of young coaches just starting to come into the middle school. Really don't know about, you know what I'm saying, how this game is going. It changed over the years. Middle school basketball, it changed the picture of County a lot. Because we really, back in the day, when I first started coaching, we didn't have no package gyms. Now you got gyms is selling out that, you got a line at 5:30. If you got a girls game at 5:30, you better be in line when them doors open. If you're not in line, you're not going to get into these gyms. PG County has grown over the years as far as these basketball games, bro. I'm just like overwhelmed of the crowd and the people supporting middle school basketball the way they do. And I like to thank PG County Public Schools from bringing middle school basketball back, because it took a minute, because they stopped it back in the day, back in like the early 2000s. They stopped it, and they brought it back in, and now it's back in, and it's phenomenal for you to be in a middle school basketball game right now, because you want to see a show, you're gonna see a show. Because some of these middle school games is more packed than high school games now, and it comes from coaching and players in PG County. And I said that, like I was telling Tobias, that I was featuring Basketball County in the Water documentary that we was featuring. Charles Carroll was featured in there, and as well as Thomas Pullen, and as well as Sammy Ogle. Sammy Ogle, they have been going back and forth to the championship over the last couple of years. They has a good powerhouse middle school program over there. And shout out to the coach over there at Sammy Ogle Middle School in Bowie, that he's putting together a good program, and also Benjamin Tasker. On the southern end, I can say that the coaches on the southern end is starting to put things together. I've been talking to them. They basically, coming and playing for the southern end is that CMIT South. Me and their coaches are good friends. We have a group chat that we talk among coaches for as on the middle school level, and try to build our community for this middle school basketball. And shout out to the Huddle Show from being the panel of this phenomenal network that we're doing for these middle school kids. And basically, the coaches is working together more now since we started this middle school panel with the southern end, the eastern, the northern, and the southern end. So we're working on building a good thing for these high school coaches once basketball come around. So we're going to have a panel, and we're going to be inviting high school coaches come out to the panel to talk to these middle school coaches soon.
Man, definitely. I think that was just awesome. You starting from Greenbelt, Greenbelt Middle, sending those kids off to Roosevelt. Benjamin Tasker sending those kids to Bowie High School. Yourself, Thomas Pullen, all these schools, Samuel Ogle, and things like that. And that's why you were, mentioned in the Water. A lot of people complain about it not being that long, but for them to actually take time out of that, short video, short film, and made sure you were highlighting your program in middle school basketball program. Like Thomas Pullen had the droids out, your game at Flowers High School, and what Thomas Pullen doing over there. And, for them to even highlight middle school basketball shows the importance of middle school basketball. And then for them to highlight you and your program in the midst of that shows your importance to the game. But a lot of coaches, like you said, are doing a great job. You guys have to keep your group chat going, keep it growing. It is a pivotal part of basketball in this area, and y'all doing an awesome job. So there's a couple programs out here that's doing an awesome job, and high school coaches have to respect it, and we still have to strengthen that relationship. I think it's still not where it needs to be. You're part of the forefront, but it's a lot of different. It's a lot of other coaches have to build that relationship with, the public school coaches and private school. Because some of these programs do have private school kids, and there's nothing wrong with that. but the relationship still needs to be strengthened. But it's a lot of programs doing an awesome job, and y'all being highlighted in the water. It was needed. It was needed, So definitely appreciate that. So I'm gonna pass it to Coach O, to close it out.
All right, yeah. One of the things too I got to say too on the recommendations for middle school basketball. I don't know how in the world y'all only play 16-minute running quarters. 6-minute running quarters. That to me is that correct? 6 minutes, right? Running
Yeah.
quarters. The game is over within probably 35 minutes, coaches. That's not enough time for any kid. you know what I mean? That's a fast game. You know what I mean? One of the great things I like what they do though, as far as like have the girls play first and then the boys play second, or the boys play first and the girls play second. That's great for especially for Title IX to get those kids out. But like you said, the crowds are pretty much packed. Small gyms, man. I know when I go to the games, I'm standing up. Usually by Charles Carroll bench or on the sideline near the bench, close to the door, man. So it's definitely, if y'all can talk about the 6-minute running quarter thing, man, I thought about being a middle school referee, how fast that game over with. You know what I mean? So you know what I mean? So definitely that's one of the things that I would recommend too as well. Before we close out, normally what we do, if you want to ask any questions of anybody on the panel, if you want some Q&A from us, man, this is your time to ask a question or two from us.
Coach O, what is your estimates far as incoming freshmen coming into your program and could be possibly a varsity player?
Typically, we talked about this earlier. It's crazy that you said that. Typically, that's a thin line. Normally, if a kid's making varsity in the 9th grade year, he has a chance of playing double digits. Most likely those kids that come in that play early is usually a guard. Not so more on the big man side of it, coming in as a freshman. Freshmen have an opportunity, but we weigh it on both ends. We think sometimes this kid can excel on JV, and if he's not playing enough on varsity, then he should be playing JV. You know what I mean? He's not just going to be on varsity just to warm up and be on the bench. You know what I mean? So when you come over as a freshman, anything goes. We think that you can make it and you're going to play a lot of minutes, it is going to be beneficial to you, not to the program, to you. That's going to help you out in the 9th grade year and to grow you within the program. Then yeah, you know what I mean? It's wide open for us. So we don't really. It's no grade level for us, because sometimes too, you get a kid that might come in, might then play 9th and 10th grade year. Now he's a junior. We put a lot of juniors on JV, not to win games, but to help develop the kid for the program. And that's on the reverse end, you know what I mean? So, and it has happened for us a lot, where a kid excelled on JV as 11th grade year, and then when he's a senior, now he's getting minutes on the varsity and as a senior, because we allowed him the opportunity to play on JV where he might not have played a lot on varsity, because it's nothing like game minutes. Game minutes is you can't, those are invaluable.
Coach John.
Yeah.
Question. You got an incoming freshman coming in. How would you, per se, he fit into your program?
On the varsity or JV level?
Varsity level. You got a 9th grader coming in, and you follow him through his middle school, and you see the X and O's that what he could do for you on varsity level. How would you discuss his ability for him being selected to be on varsity?
Yeah, I mean, basically like what Coach O said, it's basically fair game with me. If I have an incoming freshman that has the ability to play varsity, I definitely wouldn't hold the kid back, as far as like X's and O's. If his IQ is there, his strength is there, he could definitely, play varsity for me. I'm definitely going with the best talent that I have. Now, the only way that might be objected is if, he may not be a starter. If he can come in, he can play varsity. But if I believe that he's going to play more minutes on a JV level and game will develop more on JV by those minutes, If it, it's going to be minutes or strength with me. It's minutes or strength. If he's not strong enough, then that's a whole nother category. But if I believe that his game minutes and him playing 32 minutes or 28 minutes on the JV level is better than him playing 14 minutes or 12 minutes on a varsity level, that conversation will be had. But if he will be an impact on my team, and if he can have an impact, if I believe his 14 minutes or starting on varsity will outweigh him playing on JV, because the competition level, if I want to throw him in the fire, then he definitely will be on varsity. So I think you would just have to weigh out all those scenarios. But he will have time throughout, well, not this summer, with summer leagues and fall leagues. He'll have full participation all on varsity. So a lot of those questions will be answered, during those times with like fall league, summer league, and things like that. So I will see that. And then, once the preseason comes, I'll let him play a JV preseason game and a varsity preseason game to see which one, looks better and fits better for him. So, I'll weigh out all those scenarios. But if he's ready, he's ready. I'm not holding nobody's back. He's ready.
Yeah, and two, let me add on to that too, because a lot of times too, and Will said this earlier, and we talked about it earlier before you even got on, Dunbar, is that sometimes you can lose a kid. You got him on varsity as freshman year, and then turn around in sophomore year, he on JV. You can lose a kid just that quick for his confidence, or you can stop his or her development when it comes to being on a varsity program where they don't feel as comfortable, because it's all about fit. If they feel comfortable with 8, 9, 10 minutes, and then they not looking at, well, I could be on JV playing 28, 30 minutes. If they're not looking at that and they're looking at the overall growth, then they can see that, oh, okay, so now I understand why I'm here. Perfect example for us, Joseph Lovelace. His sophomore year, he was on varsity. Didn't play a whole lot, right? But I knew that we couldn't graduate the whole senior class. Our team couldn't be full of juniors and full of seniors and graduate the whole class and not have not one returning player. But at the same time, Joe was one of our co-captains as a sophomore. He didn't understand it then, but if you ask him that same question now as a senior, he understands it now. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, it's a very thin line, and it has to be started with communication, though, and trust, because the parents think the same way too. Like, why is my kid there when he could be playing? So it's the communication and trust that goes along with that as well.
Yeah, you don't mind. I kind of want to piggyback on that just a little bit, and I know, I don't know if he has a question or we're gonna close out, but I just finished my 3rd year coaching, the head coach at Huntingtown, and I made those decisions my first year. My first year, I kept 2 guys on the varsity who were incoming freshmen. One played sparingly, a couple minutes here and there, but he was a good enough athlete to obviously be on the team. Another one also was a good enough athlete to be on the varsity team with his size and his length. But if I could go back, I probably would have put him on JV because he would have played. He sat on the varsity bench. Now, I'm a big believer that, you don't get better in the games, you get better at practice. So practicing against the best players every day, that was my mindset at that time. But if I could go back, I probably would have put him on JV. And eventually he would have been able to play and develop and things of that nature, but after his sophomore year, he transferred out. And it's because of some of the things that Coach O said, parents' frustration, his frustration, the things that they thought was going to happen and maybe didn't happen. And that's also part of my fault as the coach. But then, you fast forward in this past year, I had another sophomore who started as a freshman last year. And started every game, and his development has shot up. So it all depends on the situation, depends on the kid, depends on the family, also depends on the program, because you, like O said, you don't want to have a super young team. You want to have some guys, some turnover, You know, you need that in the program. Unfortunately, you can't bring every kid up from JV because you're gonna struggle. You know, you're gonna have that down year. So if you wanna be competitive, you gotta have some guys that have been there and fought with some of those guys. So that's just my take.
I think some of it too falls into. I think some of it, like for me, falls into how competitive AAU they play. So if I have a kid that I know played with a shoe circuits team as an 8th grader, then I would think that he can handle playing varsity in my county. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So a lot of that too, it falls onto me about what type of middle school basketball they actually play and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like Coach O said, we was talking about that earlier, and that kid that we lost, man, I mean, he could have been a very good asset. He was good, but like he could have been an all-county basketball player, I think, if we didn't throw him into the fire. So, you know, I've had some kids that I thought could have played varsity as a freshman, but I always ask myself, what's the rush? You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, they could help me, but you know what? More than likely, I might can manufacture their time with somebody else. Now, if I get somebody, and even when you have somebody like the kid Brandon Horvath that played for me, that's at UMBC, he played JV for a year and a half. And I think that helped him because by the time he came up to varsity midway his sophomore year, I mean, he was just so confident because he was dominating JV. So, you know what I mean? I think, like everybody say, I think it varies kid to kid. I think, you know, mentally, do I think they can handle it or not? And also mentally, can their parents handle it? Because, you know, some parents are caught up, especially if they're in competition with other parents about, you know what I mean? Or this kid's on varsity as a freshman. Why this kid's not on varsity as a freshman? Or this kid at Annapolis is on varsity as a freshman. How come? And he's better than him, so how come he's not on varsity at Southern? So I think it all depends. Since I've been coaching, though, like it's some kids that I think could have helped me on varsity, but I mean, I don't have any regrets. The only regret I have is with that one kid when I was coaching JV about having him play varsity as a sophomore. Because I say that me and the head coach at the time, we've talked about this numerous times. We lost him his sophomore year. We didn't lose him after his senior year after graduation. We lost him due to a lack of confidence because we put him in a situation that he wasn't conducive to be successful in.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely, man. That's a good question, Dunbar. Great question.
I got one more question for Coach Will. Coach Will.
Yo.
The kid that I sit down, Coach AAU, is playing for you. How do you see him recovering from his injury?
I'm sorry, what'd you say? I couldn't hear you.
I said one of the players that I coach AAU is playing for you, and how do you see he's coming back from his injury?
He's actually doing well. He actually was cleared to resume activities without limitations on Tuesday. So I won't say 100%, but you know what I mean, based on what the doctor prescribed, you know, he's good to go and stuff like this. Now, he's actually one of the few kids that the pandemic actually helped because he didn't really miss out on AAU because, you know, nobody was playing. And then what else? It also helped him too that he didn't have to force to get himself back. And the kid Jake is a perfect example of what happens when you have a good middle school coach, because by the time Jake came to me, I mean, he was very talented, he's very coachable, but again, he was ready to play as a freshman because of the competitive basketball he played, because you guys had him out there, you know what I'm saying, you know, getting his feet wet early. So by the time he was a freshman, you know what I mean, he wasn't worried at all. I mean, we went to the county championship his freshman year, and he sure enough didn't play like a freshman. Well, I know if that was myself, I probably would have been going crazy. You know what I mean, with all the people in the game yelling, and I'm starting in the game like that. But yeah, he's doing well. I mean, I've gotten a lot of D1 calls about him. Matter of fact, Niagara just called me last night. Towson, Appalachian State, Radford. So he's gotten a lot of calls lately, and I mean, he's been working hard. He's a hard worker, and more importantly, he's a great kid. I mean, 4.0 student. So he's going to be playing AAU for Coach Chuck, Coach Tobias, Coach Dez, Coach O for Takeover Orange. So hopefully they'll get, a couple sessions in so he can get great coaching from them. And the sky's the limit. But, I appreciate that because, I mean, he was definitely more than prepared by the time he got to me.
My man. One
Hey,
question
Coach
for
Dunbar, I
Tobias.
have a question for you, Coach Dunbar. I got a question
Yes,
for
sir.
you that I just thought about. If I wanted to bring middle school basketball to my county, what would you think the first step needs to be for me? Like, who you think I should contact in my county or what?
Basically, it comes from your athletic director of your county and see he can meet with PG County and basically get some games. I think we need to spread the love in this county. That's where the question I was going to ask Tobias and see about having a big sit down. So we could have a big circle of talent basketball going around PG County, Anne Arundel, Charles County, and just have a big circle and have a big jamboree with middle school basketball. I know the good place that we could have it at. I talked to Coach Chuck Henry over at Fairmont and see that we could use the home of the Hornets to have this big jamboree.
hey, why not Blade? You can't go to Blade, man? You can't go to Parkdale?
We can do Parkdale Blade. We could do it in like a big circle. We do different jobs. Everybody on the coach show, everybody, open up a facility and we can have it. We can have enough teams in PG County and then, and then try to work together.
Definitely. We're going to have to talk afterwards because I think that's really something that will help the brand of basketball in our county. And yeah, on the flip side, you know what? It might cause us to lose some kids to privates because, it'll be a better display of middle school basketball. But you know what? I think it's also going to help in certain ways as well. So I'm definitely going to have to talk to you so I can make sure that my I's are dotted and T's are crossed when I talk to the big wigs in the county so we can try to get this started. So I appreciate that advice.
I got one advice before we close. Y'all see how?
Hey, Will, press mute. Hey, Will, press mute.
You see how the high schools do the team camps for the high school teams, the college. So I'm thinking that we put in perspective as coaches among us to have a middle school team camp, and basically the middle school teams can get the publicity to see what actually be done on the high school level by the high school coaches hosting that. Coach O?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with that. How about you, John? What you think?
I'm all for it, man.
Yeah, I'm definitely all for me. You know me. Any way I can help, because that's what we do it for. We talk about it all the time. We want to make sure that the kids get the ultimate experience. When you come to Blade, many people don't know. We got open door policy for those who we can trust. But in I don't think there's a locker room in the county that's like ours. You know what I mean? And we try to create them in-game experiences for all of our kids, So, I mean, definitely getting with that, what you just said, would be perfect for me. Definitely, man. So before we close out, man, we say thank you again to you, man, for taking some time out. And making sure that we get everything done, man. And for through this pandemic, make sure that you stay safe, man. We will be back in action sooner than we think, man. Thank you for everything that you've done, not only just for our programs, but for kids across our state with middle school basketball. So we definitely appreciate you.
Thank y'all for hosting me.
That's now the opposite deserted. Only lions in my circle, we hungry for purpose. Not just giving all these stripes, you can see that I earned them. Can't fuck the system, take the knowledge and study and learn it. Being strong and said the weakest, 1 through 12 is equal. Tried to trap me, saw it now, I had to thread the needle. You know, I had to thread the needle, dry erase and draw it up, just trying to see my youngins eating. Yeah, you know, I had to thread the needle, dry erase and draw it up, just trying to see my youngins eating.